Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga,
Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Everyone shout, ready? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you all very much for listening and joining. Please give a round of applause to our dancer, Coco, here. This is Garga Muni. He lives in Hemel Hempstead with me. We have Kamita, Nitai, Deepak, Lokabandhu, and our organizer, Shakshi Gopal Prabhu. Big round of applause to Shakshi Gopal. And my name's Govinda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Oh, yeah, there we are. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming this evening. It's an honor to be here at Bhaktivedanta Manor. An evening to honor George Harrison. This evening is going to be a very kind of random flow affair. I'm sure many of you remember George Harrison's song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Yeah? Anybody doesn't know that song? Don't be shy. Some of you might not even know much about George Harrison. But put up your hands. Who's a George Harrison fan here? You know, lifelong fan. Yes, if you've been a lifelong George Harrison fan appreciator, I want you to say Hare Krishna as loud as you can. That's not so loud. Come on, you've had your supper. Give it a good belt. Come on. Okay, that's very good. So you probably know the methodology that George used for writing While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Of course, George was a bit of a mystic, and he had he had experience in his life of synchronicity. I mean, the fact that some chap living in the back streets of Liverpool in a tiny little, house with an outside toilet, and his dad was a bus driver. Maybe he was a conductor. Was he a bus driver or a conductor? He was a driver. Okay. And what synchronicity? He was in the right place at the right time. And he said, we formed our band because none of us wanted to get a job. So they started a job. George said in one of his interviews, I thought it'd last 6 months or so, 6 months, get a bit of money, get myself a Jaguar. He had great ambitions back then for fast cars. Get a Jaguar, but I was worried that, after getting a Jaguar, I wouldn't have enough money to kind of keep it running. Of course, George ended up with a lot more than a Jaguar. And the band lasted a bit more than 6 months. And even after the band was finished, George went on to blossom, I think personally, like none of the others. He just took off. He was his own boss then, and look what he did. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, yes, George was an appreciator of synchronicity. So he thought, let me do something a bit like the I Ching. He was in his parents' house, and he said, there's a bookcase, so I'm going to take a random book. Took a book down. I'm going to take a random page, and I'm going to take a random sentence, and a random word or two. And what was the word that came up, that process? Who knows? Anybody knows? Don't be shy. The clue is the song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. What was it, the words that came up? Gently weeps. That was the word. There's 2 words on that line, gently weeps. He didn't go into details of what the book was or title, Gently Weeps. And around that little Gently Weeps, he built up that whole song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And what a masterpiece. And George was an expert at making the best of whatever came his way. And he really got into it. Whatever came his way, he'd get into it. Very seriously. Very seriously. A very deep person. Very deep. I'm sure some of you read the interviews with George and books about him. There's some amazing interviews and insights into his nature and personality, and from his friends, etc. So this evening I'm going to do a Gently Weeps approach. I hope it's not going to create any tears amongst you. But I'm going to do a bit random because I've got all these books here. And they're all stuff about George. They're amazing, Anyone got this one? I mean mine. Who's got that? Yeah, this is the deluxe version. This is the later version. And it's very nice. Songs in here that weren't in the first version. It's in color as well. And George, he speaks about his songs. He gives an insight into his different songs, why he wrote them, how they came about. And then there's this one here. This is I took the dust cover off. I didn't want to get it damaged. This is George's Living in the Material World. Lots of wonderful pictures. Some of these are going to come up on the screen. This is pictures of George. This is random, you see. It's just opened at random. So this is George's, one of his cars that he had hand-built. Hand-built car. He was dreaming of getting a Jaguar. My God, he got a hand-built car. I mean, I'm not a car aficionado. Anybody here know what this hand-built car was? Huh? What is it? Oh, Radlett. Radford. What was the model of the car? A Mini. No, this isn't a Mini. This is the one that... This is the one that... It was like a racing car, practically. It was terrifying to drive, from what I heard. One interview, this journalist came to do an interview with George. And George said, I'll pick you up at the station. So he went in the car to the station and well, it might have been. But this one was hand-built from scratch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it might have been this car, but anyway, he got to the gates of Friar Park, and the gates open, So then he's driving down the drive, and those things, I don't drive myself, I'm not really one to comment, but just the slightest bit of pressure, and woof. And on his driveway, he drove it up a tree. It wasn't a complete write-off, but it certainly shook up the journalist. When they settled down to some coffee and some special cake that Olivia had made. We won't go into the details about the special cake. But on George's, in his car, he had little lotus feet, Krishna's lotus feet. Which one is that one? Maybe it's the next page. Of course, you can't see from there. It's not much point, is it? But the inside of his car was covered in Ganeshas and lotus feet and mantras and things. And the guys making the car, every time George would phone up and say, I want this, they said, oh, no, not another elephant, So there were, lots of Ganeshas everywhere. And because George believed in divine protection. He believed in divine protection. And certainly he was protected. Even when his life was under serious threat with the attack in his house, he came out. Of course, it definitely affected him because he already had cancer. But George was definitely protected. And I'm always of the opinion that, and I don't mean to offend anyone here who's a great Beatles fan who've got their favourite, but I've always felt that the Beatles was there to, of course, they were a ray of hope in the 60s. I was a teenager when the Beatles were flourishing. I used to, myself and all my friends used to, hey, here's the latest Beatles song. And it was wow, it's another breakthrough, another level. They were fantastic, what a band. And then, unfortunately, of course, they broke up. But I'm always of the opinion that the Beatles was there, like the setting for George to flourish from and take all you need is love to a totally different level. He lifted it to a divine level. He lifted it to a level which no one else in the pop business was doing. A few of the bands sung about some far-out experience on LSD, maybe, or a bit of, it's all. But George took it to a different level altogether. Paul used to sing about romantic love, and John, he was very hurt deep inside, a very hurt person. He was a bit bitter. And of course, love is the topic of most songs, isn't it? We want it. We're lamenting because we've lost it, or we're hankering because we want it. It's all about love. But George took love to a different, and explained actually love is actually a spiritual thing. Actually a spiritual thing. Now, I've got a few quotes to speak about here and there. And the first one I'd like to give you is from Olivia. Olivia. Hope pardon me, I don't have bifocals, so I've got to do it, I've got to do this all the time, I'm going to see you, I've got to do that, but anyway, you know how it is. When you get your bus passed, everything starts to drop apart, or fall off, or whatever. So this is some words from Olivia. This particular book, has anyone got this book, Living in the Material World? Put up your hand. No. Oh, right. Well, if you see it in the bookshops, you should really get it. And if you're a George fan, lots of nice quotes from George, lots of pictures, and also words from his friends and associates. The cover is that picture of George up to his neck in the swimming pool. But I took the book cover because I didn't want to damage the book cover, the dust jacket, I should say. So here's Olivia. She's saying, nothing I can say about George speaks louder than his music. Knowing how reluctant he was to talk about himself led me to illustrate his years mostly in pictures. So Olivia took a lot of photographs. His life was fascinating, not entirely by chance. He worked hard, was curious and energetic. George was no slouch, Whatever he got into, he got into it big time. He plunged into the heart of people, places, and things that he encountered, the good and the bad. He claimed to be a sinner, but never a saint. So when I've been giving these programs every November, I always give a disclaimer. I say we're not putting George on a pedestal and saying he's a saint. He was a rock star with everything that goes with a rock star's lifestyle. But amongst the rock stars, he was a saint. Amongst the saints, he's a rock star. Isn't it? They say that about Gandhi, Gandhi. They call him Mahatma Gandhi. One British politician, very perceptive, he said, Gandhi, yeah, among the politicians, he's a saint. Among the saints, he's a politician. And George was a Pisces as well. So he's got them both going at the same time, So, Olivia says, she continues, life for George was a quest for deeper meaning, and everything was important to him. But nothing really mattered. His particular way of embracing and dismissing life's joys and disasters was completely disarming. So this is Olivia. She knows George more than you and I. He could let go as easily as I held on. It's Olivia speaking. Be here now was repeated so often we actually did begin to live in the moment. Be here now. That was something we used to say in the 60s. Be here now, man. Be here now. Anyone remember that in the 60s? They say if you can remember the 60s, you weren't. No, what they say? Yeah, if you can remember the 60s, you weren't there. So it's another one of those conundrums, isn't it? So be here now. Let's just read that song, Be Here Now. Who remembers that song by George, Be Here Now? Anyone remember it? Beautiful song. Beautiful, beautiful song. Very quiet. What album is it on? Anyone remember? Anyone remember? Oh, they don't know it there either. Be Here Now. Hold on a second. Try and find it. Be Here Now. This is a great book. All Things Must Pass. Thank you. I'm just testing, Be Here Now. All Things Must Pass. I remember when that album came out, All Things Must Pass.